Rushing mad like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just a brother for the rapture. I hang glide, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a gauntlet and start killing. It's manifesting. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, and today we're finally going to be going over all the Easter eggs and hidden meanings in the newest Boruto opening, just like I did a year ago for Boruto opening 9 and Boruto ending 17, and we will be numbering these off in a top 10 style as always. Since the anime does have spoilers in it, we will be discussing the spoilers as they come up, and starting off with number 1, we have the artist for the song Kana Boon being the same artist that did the opening for Boruto opening 1, which is a pretty big deep cut of itself. Now, up next at number 2, we have the father and son fist bump between Naruto and Boruto. Upon first glance, that might not seem like much to you, but this is actually a really big reference to the end of the Boruto movie where Naruto and Boruto fist bumped each other before going off their respective ways. The reason why this is so important is that they went from remaking the fist bump from Boruto the movie, where that was the first time we saw Boruto beginning to walk down the ninja path after he made amends with his father and truly began to understand what it meant to be a ninja. This opening is showing us Boruto's journey towards becoming a true shinobi. It's for that reason this had to be the first shot that we saw, because this was the first moment after the Momoshiki fight where Boruto began to walk the path of a ninja that we as the audience saw via Boruto the movie in 2015. Now, number 3, we have Boruto floating in the shared dimension as Momoshiki gives him the karma seal for the first time. And this was so quick that if you blinked, you missed it. I love the small details right here, having it hidden behind the logo and only briefly popping up, because that fits into the hidden message of the Naruto franchise, which is that a ninja must always learn to see past deception. You have a really good bait moment previously with the Boruto movie scene, and then you see the Boruto Naruto Next Generations logo pop up, and then you have the anime original scene that was never shown in the movie or in the manga adaptation where Momoshiki and Boruto are floating in their shared dimension. This was huge because we're seeing how this one trigger point in Boruto's life changed his path moving forward, while also setting up the future Momoshiki shots that we see in the opening. Now, number 4, we have Boruto standing alongside Naruto and Sasuke as he prepares to use the Rasengan that Naruto gave him to kill Momoshiki, which is both a throwback to the movie, the manga, and the anime, but it's also symbolic because it marked the beginning of passing the torch from Naruto and Sasuke to Boruto before we transition over to the logo showing all the members of Team 7 from Konohamaru to Kawaki, essentially using Konohamaru as a member of Naruto's generation to start passing that torch over to Boruto's generation. Now, number 5, we have what appears to be a 5-year-old Boruto and a 3-year-old Himawari. The reason for their ages is that the designs of the Uzumaki family look a lot close to what we saw with Studio Pierrot's official character design sheets during that era. The only thing different here are the clothes that they're wearing, but that's to be expected. They're out on the same deck where a 5-year-old Boruto and a 3-year-old Himawari ran out to see Naruto when he was training for the epilogue. Now, number 6, this is another good one because we have a different angle of Naruto and Hinata holding baby Boruto. Up until now, the only official shot that we had was the art that came out as promotional art that Kishimoto drew after Naruto the Last came out, where you had Naruto and Hinata holding a baby Boruto. At number 7, we have a shot of Naruto and Boruto from Naruto chapter 700, which is a fun fact. That is a manga chapter that was never adapted into the anime. This is an 11-year-old Boruto being lectured by his father after Boruto paints the faces of the Hokage in order to get attention from his father, and Naruto has to tell him that as Hokage, there are times where he has to put the village before his duty as a father, and that Boruto has to accept it if he's going to become a ninja. This isn't the first time that we've seen this either. We've seen other shots of Naruto chapter 700 in other Boruto opening and endings, like the shot of Himawari putting flowers at Neji's grave. Now, number 8, we have a huge deep cut right here. Boruto placing the leaf with the hole in it is a reference to 2 things. Number 1, it's a reference to the moment where Madara looked through the leaf with the hole in it, and number 2, this is a reference to Boruto getting a hole in his chest when Kawaki kills him. This was a gorgeous transition because The prior shot was Naruto telling Boruto about the role of the Hokage and why it requires him to put his family second, and now we see Boruto as a shinobi holding that leaf up to his eye, in particular the eye that has Momoshiki's Byakugan, and this is something that transitions us to Boruto understanding that he has to allow himself to get penetrated in order to be killed so he can protect the leaf in his father. Boruto has a hole in his chest just like that leaf has a hole in it. Now, number 9, we have Boruto and Kawaki walking different paths, a continual theme we've seen before with other openings, but the shot of Boruto in front of the various TVs is where your attention should be next. We actually have quite a few references to a few moments here throughout the timeline from various mediums, from light novels to the anime to even some of the stuff that happened in Naruto's manga. In the lower right hand corner, you see Boruto and Team 7 running away from the crazed panda. This is a reference to the light novel mission that we saw in the Boruto movie where Team 7 was hunting down the panda. That was not adapted into the anime for the Momoshiki arc, though they did do Konohamaru really dirty right here by making him scared of the panda, whereas in the novel he played a key role in stopping the panda. Above that, we also have Naruto and Shikamaru being escorted by members of Naruto's Hokage Guard Squadron. Across from that, we have Sasuke walking through the Land of Fire, which is another shot from Naruto chapter 700, which again, we didn't see animated in the anime. And below that, we have the conclusion to the prior Boruto opening where Boruto's friends were all gathered on the steps, but now we see Kawaki sitting here being a troll getting under Boruto's skin. Number 10, we have a very, very important shot where Kawaki is looking at the Hokage monument and we have the members of Team 7 show up. Now, this is an important moment right here, and the reason why is that Kawaki is only seen looking at the face of Naruto, which goes back to something that the manga revealed, which is that Kawaki is deeply obsessed with Naruto. When Team 7 does finally join him, we see Kawaki beginning to pull away from Team 7, which builds on what we saw in the Funato clan arc, which is more set up for Kawaki gravitating away from Team 7, which inevitably leads us to the anime version of Boruto chapter 58, where Kawaki gets tired of the way the shinobi and attacks members of Team 7. Number 11, we have Sasuke and Boruto with their sensei and student training. For those of you guys who wonder why we haven't seen more of them training together, we've actually seen it in some of the light novels I've covered here on the channel. So go to the homepage, scroll down to the Naruto novels in the Boruto era, and you'll actually see that training in some of those videos. Now, number 12, we have another deep cut from the Boruto movie where you have Boruto standing on top of the water tank after the shot of Boruto with Sasuke. In the movie, you had Sasuke and Sakura standing on top of a rooftop, and you had Sakura sitting on top of one of those water tanks. In both cases, you have master and student looking out over at the village. And with this shot right here, Boruto in deep thought, it further goes to build towards the moment in the manga where Boruto is officially recognized as having inherited Sasuke's will when Sasuke permanently gives Boruto his headband after Kawaki kills him. Number 13, we see Boruto sparring with his friends, but this friendly sparring match quickly turns into a deadly reveal with Boruto in his Borushiki transformation, which alludes to the events of the manga where Momoshiki takes over and proceeds to go on his rampage in the Code arc. And it's very fitting because we see Momoshiki closing his fist around Boruto to symbolize he's taking control of Boruto's body, and then opening up the fist to have Boruto face Momoshiki, which is another deep cut to that moment when Boruto and Momoshiki have their conversation when Momoshiki revives Boruto. That in turn is used to set up number 14, where we see Boruto versus Kawaki in their Otsutsuki transformed states, where you see Kawaki with the Karma Seal given back to him. What's really important about this right here is that we see Boruto and Kawaki, they have their epic clash from the manga, which in of itself is paying homage to the many Naruto versus Sasuke, Chidori versus Rasengan clashes. And just like how in part 1 it ended with a huge clash that caused a huge wave of chakra to shoot out, we see the same thing here with Boruto and Kawaki in their clash before Kawaki eventually kills Boruto. Now, in number 15, after we see Naruto's back, which in of itself is a deep cut reference to a couple of things. Number 1, Naruto Volume 72's cover, as well as Boruto in Chapter 1 being shown looking at the back of his father. However, what's really significant right here is that Boruto might be in Naruto's shadow, but we see him beginning to emerge from Naruto's shadow throughout this opening, which is a symbolic reference to something that we got in Chapter 1 of the manga, something a lot of people who do not like Boruto tend to overlook, which is that Boruto's story in Part 1 was stated to be the story of Naruto and Boruto, but eventually this does become Boruto's story. But due to Naruto being the Hokage, he will always have a role to play in the story, but Boruto's story is the story of part 2, and we're moving towards part 2 right now. As Naruto's begun to fall, you've seen Boruto begin to rise, and we're seeing clear as day that Boruto's beginning to walk his path out ahead of his father, which this opening is show us, because we're seeing as Boruto as an academy student is at Naruto's back, and then we see Boruto as a Genin beginning to run after his father to close that distance and eventually surpass him. Number 17, we have the memories of Boruto in the background being shown that highlights his journey from saving Sasuke from Ishiki to Momoshiki taking over his body to destroy the Rinnegan to Boruto's battle with Kawaki. And as Boruto's memories get too painful, we see him closing his eyes right as Boruto has a memory of him trying to take back control of his body from Momoshiki, which is symbolically important because Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body is a fear that comes true in this arc, and Boruto ends up dying as a result. We also see the moment where Kurama died, and for a second Boruto stumbles, which is consistent with him stumbling briefly in Boruto episode 220, where his fear of Momoshiki taking over caused him to stumble across his ninja journey. And we see him briefly with the moment where Naruto puts his hands on Boruto's head, and Naruto basically tells him that he's picking being a father over being a Hokage, which in turn causes Boruto to run harder through the memories around him as he's chasing his father's shadow. Now, for number 17, this is a huge deep cut right here. So outside of seeing Lady Tenten make her appearance, we also have the ladies of Konoha gathered around and they're eating, and this is a deep cut reference to Naruto opening 9, where we have the same ladies gathered around each other. However, we have an even huger deep cut right here that's going to blow your minds, and it's not Kiba and his girlfriend Tamaki looking over a very old Akamaru. The fact that we have Yamato on top of the building shingles in the direction that the camera's being held is a sign that not only is Orochimaru nearby, but he's also the one that's taking the photo. And the reason why this is so huge is that anyone who might have wondered what gender Orochimaru might be in Boruto, in the Naruto Retsuden novel, which I'm covering here on the channel, Hinata pretty much considered him to be a mother like Hinata, which should make Orochimaru, using gender neutral terms like he's a parent, raise eyebrows right now, because people have wondered, is Orochimaru taking on a feminine appearance? Why is he so feminine now? I'm not going to go that deep on it, because once you start fucking around with pronouns on YouTube, videos tend to get demonetized very quickly. I ain't trying to have none of that bullshit, so you can call Orochimaru whatever you want. Now, at number 19, we have a collection of people from Kakashi's generation like Ibiki and Iruka and Guy joining Kakashi, while we have Konohamaru, Udon, Moegi, and Hanabi from Naruto's generation, where we see Hanabi, the best girl, giving Udon more than he can drink. This is a reference to the recap episode in early Boruto where we saw drunk Hanabi become a whole vibe. Now at number 20, we have Sasuke as an adult sitting at the base of the tree, and he's eating the meal that's prepared for him by his family, which is a deep cut to a couple things. So that basket is a deep cut to what we saw at the end of Naruto Gaiden, where you had Sakura and Sarada give Sasuke that meal basket, but you also have a deep cut to one of the Naruto novels that is set after the war, which is the Sasuke Shinden novel, The Book of Sunrise. In the artwork that Masashi Kishimoto drew, we had Sasuke at the base of a tree eating a rice ball, but this is different right here, which is that Sasuke has a hint of a smile in this scene versus the Sasuke that Kishimoto drew for that novel was clearly still being weighed down heavily by the crimes of his past. And that's gonna be it for the major Easter eggs I found in this video. Surprisingly, this had more Easter eggs than the last Boruto opening and ending that I broke down. But I enjoyed this one a lot because this one was a whole vibe right here. It would have been longer if I would have mentioned the flashbacks for Kawaki and Mitsuki, but I tried to limit this mainly to the major Easter eggs. But I made an exception for Drunk Hanabi because she's best girl. And like I said before, Hanabi went from being a whole snack to being a whole vibe. You can't go wrong with Hanabi fan service. If you think I missed anything major, let me know down in the comment section below. Everyone, click here for my video on the true power of the collective Uchiha clan, and click here for my review of Chainsaw Man Chapter 99.